Reduction Strategy Act. Honourable Speaker, my hometown of Prince Rupert has the dubious distinction of being one of, well, it's tied with two other communities as being the poorest in British Columbia. The North Coast Regional District, as well as the Prince Rupert School District, are also often listed amongst the poorest in our province. In January, the Minister of Social Development and Poverty Reduction hosted a poverty reduction strategy meeting in Prince Rupert. It was one of the largest forums held, with over 150 people in attendance from all walks of life. From people who were thrust into poverty when the pulp mill closed, to people who lost their lifelong jobs working at the cannery. We even saw working poor who were there trying to offer solutions to this long-ignored problem. Imagine that, working multiple jobs, living paycheck to paycheck, and still taking time to offer solutions at a forum. It was 16 years under BC Liberal leadership of ignoring and underfunding social programs, which has led to BC having the second worst poverty rate in Canada. It was chirping on about jobs and families for 16 years while over 500,000 people lived in poverty. That's 550,000 people living in poverty, 99,000 of them children. 1 in 5 of British Columbia's children live in poverty. But our colleagues across the aisle just want to ignore that number, Honourable Speaker. The people from my community and others across our province will not let them forget that. It's not just children either. It's seniors as well. BC seniors are the poorest in Canada. According to the BC Seniors Poverty Report Card released by Spark BC and the United Way, in 2012, the numbers of seniors living in poverty was 43,000 in 2015. And the number rose to over 70,000. The Bella Coola Valley, in my riding, has the highest senior poverty rate in BC, at nearly 15% of seniors living in poverty. What was the previous government's response to those statistics? There wasn't one, Mr. Speaker. It was business as usual, and that's unacceptable. Things haven't been working, and too many people have been left behind, despite our strong economy. That's why we're developing BC's first poverty reduction strategy. We're going to join the rest of the country in actually developing a plan that helps those in British Columbia who have been left behind. This legislation is a turning point for our province. Our government has already taken bold steps to address low wages through the Fair Wages Commission. It can no longer be the Wild West, where wages race to the bottom. The Poverty Reduction Strategy Act is a historic step that sets out bold poverty reduction targets. And our government is already working to make people's lives more affordable by cutting MSP premiums, upping the disability and social assistance rates, and helping parents with lower-cost childcare. We know there's more to be done, and that's why we've introduced this legislation. We plan to lower the overall poverty rate by 25% over the next 5 years, and lower the child poverty rate by 50%. These aren't numbers, Mr. Speaker. These are people. These are the kids that walk past my house going to school in Prince Rupert each morning. These are our neighbours. We know that children who live in poverty often don't do as well in life. A hungry child can't learn. A child understands when their parents are stressed out about money. They know when they can't afford to participate in sports and other activities. Poverty negatively affects their health and education outcomes, which traps them in the cycle of poverty. How do we solve it? That's the purpose of this legislation, Mr. Speaker. As I said, our government has already taken steps to address poverty. As mentioned before, cutting MSP premiums by 50% with a goal to eliminate them. Our friends across the aisle doubled MSP premiums during their tenure. Our government restored adult basic education and English language learning programs, two very cynical cuts from the last government. We removed an unnecessary barrier for people looking to upgrade their skills. We announced over 2,000 modular homes across the province to get people off the streets and have provided wraparound services to help them better their lives. The record investment in housing, part of our 30-point housing plan, will increase supply, and our speculation tax will help further increase supply and curb property speculators from pricing everyday British Columbians out of their own communities. We ended the arbitrary 2% rental increase instigated by the previous government. Our record investment in childcare will save families across the province thousands and thousands of dollars a year in childcare costs. Our government knows that what we've done isn't enough. Honourable Speaker, a goal without a plan is just a wish. That's why we have set goals to lower the poverty rates for BC. That's why we've introduced this legislation. This legislation means that we can begin to break the cycle that keeps people trapped from one generation to the next. When you invest in children, you lift the entire family up. Honourable Speaker, I support this legislation. It's long past due. And it's prudent we hold any government to account for actually making the lives better for people. Thank you.